お前はもう死んでいる。何？
When you hear the term Souls-like, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Larger-than-life challenging battles against overwhelming odds, determined by your skill and knowledge? Fights that test your dodging skills and dexterity and patience when attacking? But what if you applied it into a deck builder game? How would you begin to merge these two genres? Enter the spirit world of DEMIKLO, a unique blend of genres that hasn't really been seen before in gaming. Developed by the Outer Zone, an indie game studio based in Denmark, DEMIKLO is one of their most ambitious projects yet. Now, besides a couple of small itch.io games and an official Dark Souls card game, it hasn't really seen this kind of genre mix before. So let's dive in. You play as Ro, a grieving mother who travels the sorrow-soaked spirit realm in order to bring back her son. Throughout your journey, you battle through spirits in interconnected zones, unlock hidden paths, and uncover the lore of the realm. As you progress, you unlock more abilities and cards to help you survive the fight and look for friendly forces to aid you on your way. But is DEMIKLO actually a Souls-like? Let's talk about the key formula of each genre. Souls-like consists of difficult enemies, sparse save points, environmental storytelling, playstyle variety, combat variety, as well as limited consumables and healing. While deck builders consist of starting decks, a resource management, card crafting via the resources, as well as maximizing turn potentials influenced by random number generators. Naturally, you would want all of these represented in some sort of capacity, but with such difference in genre, it can't be that simple. When it comes to gameplay, the soul-like influence truly shines as you find yourself exploring different regions and routes, some with lower powered enemies, or going straight to the sacred grove that unlocks the rest of the region within the map. Each path carries its own mix of reward and danger, encouraging players to weigh risk against potential gain. With limited options for healing, you are constantly being pushed to prepare before each encounter by either tuning your deck, managing resources, or scouting ahead for threats that could easily end your run. Combat takes place on a grid-based field. Think Fire Emblem or Into the Breach, where positioning and deck synergy defines your success. Every action matters, and while you can hold about 15 to a maximum of 20 cards in your deck, you'll need to truly think how to overcome each obstacle and which card will be the most valuable. You will be forced to experiment with new deck combinations with introductions to new keywords that serve as useful abilities. Even late in the game, fights never feel like routine. They require patience, timing, and tactician thinking. When it comes to save points, or sacred groves as they're called in the game, they redefine the concept that is traditionally shown in Souls-like games like Dark Souls and Elden Ring. They act as a sanctuary, allowing you to only heal and deposit your death hollows to be used in a progression tree, which is kind of like a skill tree. However, that's not the only way to save. Say if you die from a battle, instead of getting respawned at the nearest sacred grove like you would in the traditional Souls-like, you will instead respawn in front of the encounter you perished from, with the option to decide to ditch it and go to something else like, side questing. With the open exploration, which is essential for any Souls-like, pushing into new regions allow you to get ahead with new cards. But be careful as some more balancing comes into play. Cards that are outside the region that you obtained them in cost 1 extra mana. Throughout the game, you gather totems as well, which allows for battlefield advantages that comes with some trade-offs that may give you an increase in attacks or add cards that wound you when played. Believe me, with the progression, which is basically a skill tree, you have a specific one that changes as you move across regions, adding an extra layer of balancing, where you can unlock additional mana to play cards, new totems, amongst other abilities as well. Now, deck building is where DEMIKLO truly shines when it comes to gameplay. with its balancing system that locks certain OP cards to either one or two of the type, and this is similar to ban lists which you can expect in TCGs such as Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Magic the Gathering. There are different metas for each region, such as sacrifice-focused decks that encourages discarding cards in order to activate the sacrifice keyword. Or there's keep decks that require you to keep the card in your hand after your turn ends in order to get the effect from the keyword. Successfully chaining these effects gives you an edge over the slim odds of survival. Even with these mechanics, however, adapting to your environment is essential. No builds guarantee victory, and with survival comes from understanding even if you die again and again and again. While researching this game, there's a lot that one might think that this isn't truly a Souls-like. Especially when at first glance, this seems like more like Slay the Spire slapped with some tactics onto it. It's clear that some sacrifices had to be made to make this game feel right. Things like respawning in front of the fight instead of the last save point, like we mentioned, the RNG nature of the cards being shuffled in your deck. In turn, DEMIKLO is providing its own reinterpretation of the design philosophy of what makes a Souls-like game, but with a completely different framework, of course. But it's just translated in a different format with deck builder and tactical gameplay. There's also a change in pace overall as you manage your mana to play cards and needing to plan each move and card play. Most definitely, the pressure from the limited resources, limited grid space, and enemies can easily overwhelm you, leading to the infamous "you died." The game focuses on the overarching environment, so there is no background while fights go on, and generally the game keeps a clear and simple look, avoiding unnecessary visual clutter. And with a story so well put together and having a message of grief, perseverance, and healing, it's sad to say how many noticeable bugs I found during this review copy of the game. There could be issues such as the previous death howls not being shown after death, visual glitches in the gameplay, or UI. I also personally struggled with figuring out the indications of what an enemy would do next. However, I can tell this draws more from the deck builder genre of not letting your enemy know your next move, as opposed to the Souls-like genre with slight visual cues. But then again, this might be just a skill issue on my part, but eventually, I overcame it. When it comes to my wishlist for this game, and based on the thresholds of card games I've played in the past, having audio cues when you play a card is generally helpful. Gaining the block or trigger effect can also be more visually appealing and helpful to keep players engaged. In regards to the deck building menu, I really don't like it. Having an easier add and removal of cards and ability to search or filter cards based off of the keywords will be really helpful, but maybe I'm very spoiled from Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duels. And when it comes to battles, there were cases where the enemies would do certain visual representations, such as the lighting ability, for example, that would warrant a warranty for those who might be light sensitive. Myself included. When it comes to accessibility and menu options, it is very limited. Basic features such as like a contrast mode or maybe a colorblind mode are basically absent, and there's the inability to minimize or resize screens, making it really tough if you have different sort of setups, especially when I had to review this on only one monitor. Overall, it doesn't make the gameplay unplayable, but it tends to get frustrating the longer you play, especially when you can't remap your controls. Although I do hope it gets ironed out by either the time of release or in future updates. Despite its imperfections, DEMIKLO has its claws in me. The combat makes you think, every step on the grid, every card you play or hold back forces you to slow down, read the board, and actually plan instead of pushing your way through. That deliberate pace fits perfectly with the larger themes with Rose's journey through the Scandinavian folklore. As every fight feels like a puzzle of survival and grief, not just another enemy to clear. So even with the rough edges, this is an uncut gem. Standout brain, engaging tactical experience with an eerie pixel art style. I hope DEMIKLO inspires other developers to mash up genres in such a thoughtful manner and allow for more innovation in the Souls-like space. Thanks for watching! This was a fun game to review, especially as someone who intensely streams Yu-Gi-Oh! And Magic the Gathering on Twitch, which you can check out in the description below. And I appreciate all the support from my friends and community. If you have an indie game that you want me to review, feel free to drop it in the comments below. Like and subscribe, and see you in the next video.